Your Social Security check might be based on a wrong number. Not a scam, not a computer glitch, not something that happened to somebody else. An actual error sitting inside your own personal earnings record at the Social Security Administration, right now, today, whether you know it or not. And here's the hard truth nobody tells you up front. No one is going to call you about it. There's no letter coming in the mail with a red flag on it. No agent is sitting there cross-checking your file just to make sure it's right. If there's a mistake in your record, it just sits there, quietly, permanently lowering your monthly check for the rest of your life, unless you're the one who goes and looks. So that's exactly what we're doing together right now. Step by step, in plain language, no jargon, no scare tactics, just what's real, what's true, and what you can actually do about it starting today. Before we go any further, I want to clear up two assumptions, because I already know a lot of you are thinking one of these two things. If you worked one steady job your whole career, same employer for 30, 35 years, punched in every single day, you might be sitting there thinking, that doesn't apply to me. My company had it together. My paperwork was always handled. I'm fine. And then on the complete other end, if you bounced around a lot of different jobs, a lot of different employers over the decades, maybe some years of self-employment mixed in, you might be thinking the opposite. You might assume you're definitely the one with a messed up record because your work history feels complicated. Here's the truth, and I want you to really hear this. Both of those assumptions can be wrong. A single long-term employer can still make a reporting error. A mistyped social security number, a small mismatch between the name on your card and the name your employer submitted, and that error can sit buried in the system for decades without a single person catching it. Meanwhile, plenty of people with a long, scattered, complicated work history end up with a perfectly clean record because every employer along the way happened to report things correctly. So the length of your work history and how many jobs you had doesn't actually tell you anything about whether your record is clean. The only way to know is to go look for yourself, not to guess based on how tidy or messy your career felt from the inside. Let's actually talk about how your benefit gets calculated, because once this clicks for you, you'll understand exactly why one bad year can matter so much for the rest of your life. Social Security doesn't take your entire career and average all of it together. It takes your 35 highest earning years, adjusts each of those years for inflation, and builds your benefit calculation from that specific set of 35 years. That's the whole formula. 35 years, highest earning, inflation adjusted. Now here's the part that catches so many people off guard, and it's the whole reason we're making this video. If you didn't work a full 35 years, for whatever reason, or if one of those years of earnings is missing from your record or was recorded incorrectly by an employer, that year doesn't just quietly get left out of the average. It gets counted as a flat zero. A zero dropped right into the middle of your 35-year calculation, dragging the whole average down with it. And because the formula specifically pulls from your highest 35 years, a zero sitting where a real income figure should be doesn't just nudge your monthly check down a little bit. It can permanently lower it. And it stays lowered for every single check you receive for the rest of your life, unless that error gets caught and corrected. This is exactly why it doesn't matter whether you had one job or 10 jobs. It's not about the number of employers on your resume. It's about whether every single one of those 35 years actually got recorded the way it was supposed to be. So how does a year end up wrong in the first place? This isn't random, and it isn't rare, and it isn't something that only happens to careless people. It's simply how a massive, decades-old record-keeping system works when it depends on thousands and thousands of different employers all reporting information correctly, year after year, without a single mistake. Any one weak link in that chain, any one payroll department having a bad month, any one form filled out incorrectly, and that error becomes part of your permanent record unless somebody catches it. According to the Social Security Administration itself, there are a handful of well-documented causes. Sometimes an employer simply reports the wrong wage figure for you, a clerical mistake on their end that never gets corrected down the line. Sometimes there's a mismatch between the name or Social Security number on file with the government and what your employer actually submitted on your behalf, which means the earnings never get properly matched to your account at all. They just float off somewhere in the system. If you were ever self-employed, even for a short stretch, your income sometimes doesn't get properly credited to your personal earnings record, even though you paid into the system in good faith. And for a lot of folks watching this, especially if your working years go back several decades, some of those older records date back to a time before everything was digitized, And paper records from that era were not always fully or accurately transferred over when the system modernized. Any one of these, sitting quietly in your file for 20, 30, 40 years, and you would have absolutely no way of knowing about it unless you actually went and looked. So let's go look, right now, together. Here's exactly what to do, step by step. Open a browser and go to ssa.gov. That's the official Social Security Administration website, not a third-party service, not something that's going to try to sell you a product. Once you're there, you're going to create an account or log into an existing one called My Social Security. It's free. It's official. It takes just a few minutes to set up if you've never done it before. Once you're logged in, look for your earnings history. Sometimes it's labeled your earnings record, and it's going to show you a full year-by-year breakdown of what Social Security has on file for your reported earnings, going all the way back to when you first started working. Take your time scrolling through it. Don't rush this part. What you're actually looking for is simple. Does every single year you know you worked show a reasonable number next to it? Or is there a year sitting there with a zero, or an amount that looks far too low compared to what you actually remember earning that year? That gap, that mismatch between what you remember and what the record shows, that's your red flag. That's the exact thing that needs a second look before you move on. Go year by year. Don't just skim the totals at the top of the page. It's slow. It's a little tedious. But this is one of those situations where a few extra minutes of patience now could genuinely change what your monthly check looks like for the rest of your life. If everything lines up and every year looks right, wonderful. Now you know for certain instead of just assuming. And if something looks off, you've caught it while there's still something you can do about it, which is exactly the point of this whole exercise. If you do find a year that's wrong or missing entirely, here's exactly how you go about fixing it. Step 1, go find your supporting documents from that specific year. Old W-2 forms, tax returns, pay stubs, anything at all that shows what you actually earned during that time period. The more documentation you can gather, the smoother and faster this whole process tends to go. Step 2, once you've got your documents together, you're going to file what's called Form SSA 7008. That's the official request for correction of earnings record, and you can find that exact form right on ssa.gov, ready to download and fill out. If you'd rather talk to an actual human being and walk through the process verbally instead of filling out paperwork on your own, you can call the Social Security Administration directly at 1-800-772-1213 and ask them specifically to open an earnings review on your account. And if you're someone who prefers to handle important things face-to-face, you can also visit your local Social Security office in person. Bring your documents with you, and they can walk you through filing the correction right there at the counter. All three of those paths, the form, the phone call, or the in-person visit, lead to the exact same outcome. The key isn't picking the perfect method. The key is actually doing one of them, instead of just knowing this information and setting it aside. Now here's something I want to be completely straight with you about, because this is the part that creates real urgency, not manufactured urgency, actual urgency. There is a filing window for these corrections, and it matters. Generally speaking, the Social Security Administration corrects earnings within 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days after the tax year in question. Once that window closes, corrections are only made in limited circumstances after that. Things like proven fraud, a clear clerical or mechanical error, or wages that an employer flat out failed to report at all. Now, that doesn't automatically mean an old error from 20 or 30 years ago can never be fixed. Some of those older documented cases genuinely do still go through under those limited circumstances. But it does mean that the easier, faster, more straightforward path to getting a correction made is time limited, and it narrows the further you get from the year in question. I'm not going to stand here and tell you the sky is falling, because that's not what this is about. But I am going to tell you plainly that waiting does not help you here. Checking your record today costs you nothing and takes a few minutes out of your day. Waiting costs you options, and options are exactly what you want to have on your side when it comes to your own retirement income. Think of it this way. Every year that passes without you looking is another year closer to that filing window closing on whatever error might be sitting in your file. You can't fix a window that's already shut, but you absolutely can act while it's still open. And right now, for most of you watching, it very likely still is. While you've still got that account open in front of you, there are 2 more things absolutely worth checking, and these apply to a lot of the people watching this video right now. First, if you are widowed, Take a moment while you're logged in to confirm that Social Security's system has actually been updated to properly reflect your spouse's passing. This matters more than it sounds like, because it directly affects how survivor benefits get calculated for you going forward. And here's the part that catches people off guard. That update is not always automatic, just because a death certificate was filed somewhere else. It's absolutely worth confirming that it went through correctly on Social Security's end, rather than simply assuming it happened on its own in the background. Second, if you claimed Social Security before you reached your own full retirement age and you kept working after you started collecting, here's exactly how that situation works. Social Security withholds a portion of your benefits above a certain annual earnings limit for as long as you're still under full retirement age and still working. But once you actually reach full retirement age, you're supposed to have that withheld amount recalculated and repaid to you going forward through a higher monthly benefit from that point on. That recalculation does not always happen automatically or correctly without you personally double checking it. So if that situation describes you, go into your account today and confirm that recalculation genuinely took place the way it was supposed to. So here is your one simple step for today, and I want you to actually do this, not just nod along and move on with your day. Go to ssa.gov, log into or create your My Social Security account, and pull up your full earnings history right now or immediately after this video ends. It takes a few minutes out of your day, and it could genuinely be the most valuable few minutes you spend all week, maybe all year. If you go check and you do find a wrong or missing year sitting in there, I would love to hear about it. Drop a comment down below and let us know what state you're watching from. It genuinely helps the rest of us understand just how common this actually is across the entire country. And if you know somebody who's already collecting Social Security right now, a parent, a neighbor, a friend from church, someone from your old workplace, go ahead and send them this video. It genuinely might be worth real money to them down the road. One last thing before we wrap up here. Everything you just heard in this video is general education, based entirely on publicly available information straight from the Social Security Administration. It is not personal financial advice, and every single person's situation is different from the next. Please confirm your own specific circumstances directly with the Social Security Administration before making any decisions based on what you saw here today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.